All right, so this is the first lesson on surface area, and I think in comparison to the different measurement stuff where we're doing a bunch of unit conversions and all that, this is a lot more straightforward, and there's a lot less formulas and all that kind of stuff to use. So yeah, I think especially this lesson you'll find a bit of a nice break. So this first part of the lesson is just review. Okay, so how do you find the area of a circle, rectangle, or of a triangle? And these, it's going to be the same equation for every circle, same equation for every rectangle, same equation for every triangle. So that part's really nice. On your formula sheet, on the second page, so first page was all of our conversion stuff, and the second page has this section called area. Okay, so this is finding right, when we're saying area, we're talking about the space inside of like a 2D object. Okay, so we're not talking about like how much liquid an object could hold, right? It's not like a 3D shape. We're talking about like how much flat space is covered by a 2D object. So for area, we have these equations that we're going to be using. So if we wanted to know the area of a circle, then we would use the area of a circle is equal to pi times r squared. Okay, that means like r times itself. So if the radius was 5, it would be pi times 5 times 5, right? Or pi times 5 squared means the same thing. Remember that the radius is not all the way across the circle, that it's half. So we'll see that in just a second. Rectangle is just length times width. Okay, so area is equal to length times width. And then for a triangle, it is very similar, but it is the area is equal to the base times the height divided by 2. Okay, so a triangle is actually like just the exact same as a rectangle. It's just cut in half, right? It's like we have a rectangle, and if we cut it in half, that would give us the area of a triangle. So it's very, very similar to that one. You just have to divide by 2 after. All right, so let's do just these quick examples here. Okay, so to find this first one, it is telling us the diameter. Okay, saying d is equal to 5.2 centimeters here. And it has this line going all the way across. So we're knowing that this is talking about the diameter. But for our equation for a circle, looking at our formula sheet, it says that the area is equal to pi r squared. Okay, so we don't need the diameter, we need the radius. So that was going to be half of 5.2. So first I would just take 5.2 and divide by 2 to find half of it. And that's going to give me 2.6 centimeters. So now I can just put this into my equation. Area is equal to pi, and I could write 3.14 and so on here, or I could just leave this as pi. Okay, so this time I'll write 3.14, but normally what I would do is I would just leave that as the symbol for pi. And our r squared, our radius we just found out was 2.6. So I'm going to replace this with 2.6, and I'm just going to put this in brackets to show that we're multiplying and that we're squaring this. Okay, so in our calculator, you could put it in exactly like this, or another really simple way that you could write this that means the exact same thing would be 3.14, or just the symbol for pi, times 2.6 times 2.6. Okay, it's up to you whether or not you want to write, like just put the squared here, or if you want to times it by itself again. Both of them mean the same thing. So our area is equal to this, and we would put our final answer down here. Okay, so this is our answer then, if we put this into our calculator, should be 21.2. Okay, but now we need to think of, well, 21.2 what, right? What's our unit that we're talking about here? Our radius was talking about centimeters, but centimeters talks about a length. Okay, that's how long a line would be. So our answer can't just be centimeters, because that 21.2 centimeters is talking about just a long line. So what we've done here is we've taken centimeters and times it by centimeters again. This is like 2.6 centimeters times 2.6 centimeters. So all that we have to do is that our units just get squared as well. Okay, so the simple way of thinking of this is that when you're going from length to, like if you're doing centimeters and centimeters, you're just putting a 2 on it and your answer. Okay, if you're starting with centimeters, you're going to end up with centimeters squared. This is now no longer talking about like a 1 centimeter line. It's talking about 1 centimeter squared means a box that is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Okay, so that's 1 centimeter squared. So it says it's going to take up 21.2 of those. Okay, so I went a little slow through that example. I'll go through faster on the next one. Okay, rectangle is the area is equal to length times width. And it doesn't matter which number you pick here. If you do this one first or that one first, it'll give you the same answer. So we're just going to say 19.2 times 17.5 in our calculator. So 19.2 times 17.5. And so we get the area is equal to 336. Okay, but now we need our units. Okay, 336 what? 300, like if we're talking about inches squared compared to feet squared, or centimeters squared compared to kilometers squared, there's really big differences there, right? So in this case, we were talking about feet. Okay, we had feet times feet. And so our answer, right, is just going to be feet squared. Okay, or we call that square feet is the way you would say it in, everyday language. And lastly, here to find the area of a triangle is just our area is equal to 1/2 base times height. Okay, so even though it's upside down, we'd still call this our base. Okay, it's the height is how tall is this triangle, and base would be how far across does it go. So it should make kind of like a T when you do it. So this then would be 1/2 times base times height. So our base is 3.5. And I'm just going to put brackets here to show that we're multiplying. And times 3.7. 3.7. So the way that you'd put this into your calculator, right, is if you're finding like half of these things, I think the easiest way to do it, like the way that makes the most sense to me, is just to say 3.5 times 3.7, and then just divide it by 2. Okay, we're saying like all of this divided by 2. So that's like, I'm just going to write it out. You wouldn't need to show this work, but the way that I would write this into my calculator would be like this: 3.5 times 3.7, and then divide by 2. Okay, that will give you the right answer in your calculator. All right, sorry, I just saw that kind of got cut off. So this is how I'd write it into my calculator. Just the 3.5 times 3.7 divided by 2, and like after I rounded, I got an answer of 6.5. Again, I need to check my units. I was talking about inches there before, and so now I'm going to be talking about inches squared, right, which we call square inches. Okay, so that's all review. Okay, area of a circle, area of a rectangle, area of a triangle, and now we're going to be talking about composite shapes, which just mean like a bunch of different shapes stuck together. So there's no equation for how to find the area of this shape. Okay, if we want to find the space inside of this L shape, there's no equation on your formula sheet that's going to do it. So all we need to do is just break it up into chunks. You could either break it up here and find the area of this square and find the area of this rectangle, or we could break it up here and find the area of that square and that rectangle. You could break it up into 3 squares, but you get the idea. Okay, you just need to break it up into pieces that we can work with, and there's lots of different ways that you could do that. So I am going to do this way, where I'm just going to call this like my first shape and my second shape. Okay, I'm just labeling them here just so that's easy for me to kind of show my work. So I'm going to find the area, like I'm going to just call it area 1. Okay, the area of this first thing is area of a square or rectangle is length times width, so it's just 2 times 2. So area of my first shape is equal to 4, and I'm talking about centimeters, so this is going to be centimeters squared. For my second shape, maybe I'll do this in blue. So the area of my second shape is length times width again, so it's 4 times 2. So that one's equal to 8, and again, it's going to be centimeters squared. Now, it's asking for the area of the entire shape. So the entire shape is going to be these two added together, the area of that one and the area of that one added together. And so then the area of everything, I'm just going to call this one A, is going to be 4 centimeters squared plus 8 centimeters squared, gives me a final answer of 12 centimeters squared. So really not a whole lot to this one. It's just finding the area of those two and adding them together. So this is the same idea. I'm going to go a little bit faster here. This one we need to just break up into 2 shapes that we can find the area of. Okay, so I would call this one like shape 1, and I'll call this one shape 2. You don't have to label them this way. It's just a way that I think makes it easy to kind of show my work. So the area of the first shape is, it's going to be base times height divided by 2, right? So I could either kind of write the 1/2, or I could say like divide by 2, whatever you want to do there. So the one that makes this a little thing that makes this a little trickier is that we have the height of this triangle. Okay, the height here is 5, but it doesn't tell us the base. Okay, it doesn't tell us what this measurement is here. So we need to figure that out by looking at the rest of the shape. We know that this entire length here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We know that this entire length along the bottom is 8 centimeters. Okay. So that means like this whole length at the top here is also going to be 8 centimeters, because it is the exact same as the bottom. So if I want to find out just this section, I just need to subtract those two end pieces off. So to find out what this length is right here, I would say 8, my total length, subtract 1, subtract 2, right? 8 minus 1 minus 2 is 5. So this bottom side here is going to be 5 centimeters across, because all three of these together would make up the same length as the bottom. So now I'm ready to put that into my equation here. So my base, or my height was 5, and my base is also 5 now. And divide by 2. So my calculator, I'm just saying 5 times 5 divided by 2 to get, this would be 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. So that's the area of my triangle. Okay, then I need to find the area of this rectangle, and that is going to be length times width. Okay, so area of 2 is length times width, which is 8 times 5, these two numbers. So 40. And our units here are centimeters squared. So then the very last thing is just to add these two together. Okay, 12.5 plus 40 is equal to 52.5 centimeters squared. That's our total. All right, now, is this our last example? Yeah. So this one just adds us 2 half circles into it. Okay, so there's 2 ways you could do this. You could think of this as like those circles, you could think of as just one whole together. So this could be like this shape and this shape together make one full circle. So I could just do the equation for one circle, or I could take the area of this circle and divide it by 2 to find out what that is. And then I could find the area of a circle here and divide that by 2, right? And then add everything up together. For the sake of this one, I'm just going to do it as one circle. Okay, so I'm going to call like this and this together will be my first shape. Okay, so the equation for a circle, if you look on your formula sheet, is pi times r squared. And so we would say pi times the radius here, remember, is just halfway across. So if this is 2 inches across, then its radius is just going to be 1 inch. So 1 squared. So pi times 1 again. If we square it, we're just times it by 1 again, is just going to be anything times 1 is just itself. So it's just going to be pi. So our answer here is going to be like 3.14. And we are talking about inches squared. The second one is a bit more simple. It's just this shape here. Do this one in red. This one's just length times width, 2 times 2. So the area of my second shape here is 2 times 2. Gives me 4 inches squared. So the area of the entire thing is going to be 3.4 or 3.14 plus 4 gives me 7.14 inches squared. And that'll be my final answer. So when I did this, okay, that was kind of imagining these 2 halves of a circle being all the way together. If I wanted to do it in 2 parts, okay, if I wanted to call this like, if I wanted to call this one, let's say like shape 3, okay, if I wanted to just calculate the area of this half of a circle here, all I would need to do is just divide by 2 here. Okay, I'd find the area of this entire circle here, and then divide it by 2 to find out this area. And then I would do the exact same thing over here. I'd say again, for shape 3, I would say pi r squared, and then just divide what I get by 2. Because I'm then adding these 2 halves together, it ends up being the exact same in the end. Okay, so it's kind of less work to just combine them into one circle. All right, so that's it for this one. So this was all just 2D shapes. The next lesson gets into 3D shapes, where we'd say like, what's the surface area, like all this the area all around the outside of an object. But this is good practice for getting to that part. All right, so good luck on the assignment.